There are 5 things homeowners do every summer that can make an air conditioner work harder, run longer, or turn a small problem into an expensive service call. And the strange part is that almost every one of them feels like the smart thing to do. You come home to a hothouse, so you drop the thermostat to 60. You close the vents in rooms nobody uses. You surround the outdoor unit with shade because you want to protect it from the sun. A technician says the refrigerant is low, so you pay to add more and move on. And when replacement day finally comes, you buy the bigger system because bigger has to mean better. Every one of those decisions sounds reasonable, but some of them can work against the way your air conditioning system was designed to operate. And mistake number 5 is the one I want you to remember before you ever sign an HVAC replacement quote. Because once the wrong size equipment is sitting beside your house, fixing that decision becomes much harder. But first, look at your thermostat. Because mistake number 1 is probably the most common summer habit of all. Mistake number 1, dropping the thermostat to 60 degrees. Imagine you've been gone all afternoon. You open the front door and the house feels miserable. The thermostat says 82 degrees. What's the first instinct? You walk over and punch that temperature down. 70, 65, maybe even 60. Because mentally, the thermostat starts feeling like the accelerator pedal in your car. If 75 means normal cooling, then surely 60 means maximum cooling. But that's not what you're actually asking the thermostat to do. Lowering the set point far below the temperature you actually want generally doesn't tell the air conditioner, "Please cool this house twice as fast." It tells the system, "Keep cooling until you reach this much lower temperature." Your equipment still operates according to its design and controls. So if your real goal is to get the house to 74, setting the thermostat to 60 doesn't magically turn a normal AC into a supercharged version of itself. It can simply leave the system running toward a temperature you never actually needed. Now, modern air conditioners aren't all identical. Some equipment is single-stage, some is two-stage, some is variable capacity. But the same basic homeowner lesson still applies. Don't use an extreme thermostat setting because you think it will force the house to cool faster than the system is capable of cooling. Set the temperature you genuinely want. Then let the system work. Here's a good example. Let's say the house is at 80 and you'd be perfectly comfortable at 75. Set 75. Don't set 60, forget about it. Then walk past the thermostat an hour later wondering why the AC is still running. And if you're sitting in a room that feels a little warm, even though the temperature is reasonable, remember that a ceiling fan can help you feel cooler by moving air across your skin. That's different from trying to cool every object, wall, floor, and cubic foot of air in the house another 5 degrees. So the first rule is simple. Set the temperature you want, not a dramatic number designed to send your AC a message, because your air conditioner doesn't understand anger. And the second mistake comes from the exact same kind of thinking. It feels completely logical. Mistake number 2. Closing vents in empty rooms. You've got a guest bedroom. Nobody is using it. Maybe your kids moved out years ago. Maybe you only have guests twice a year. So you look at the supply vent and think, "Why am I paying to cool this room?" You close it. Then maybe you close the vent in the spare bathroom. Then the office. Now you've shut 3 or 4 vents, and it feels like you've created a free energy saving system. Why cool 2,000 square feet if you're only living in 1,400 of it? The problem is that a central duct system isn't necessarily designed to work like a collection of completely independent hoses. The blower, supply ducts, return ducts, registers, and equipment are part of one airflow system. When you close a large number of supply registers, the air doesn't simply disappear. You can change the pressure and airflow conditions inside the ductwork. Depending on the system, closing too many vents can increase static pressure, reduce airflow where you actually need it, create more duct leakage, increase noise, and make the equipment operate outside the conditions it was designed around. Does closing one little vent instantly destroy your AC? No, that's not the point. The mistake is thinking that shutting down half the supply registers is the same thing as having a professionally designed zoning system. It isn't. A proper zoning system may use dampers, controls, sensors, bypass strategies, variable equipment, or other design features specifically intended to control different areas of the house. Closing random registers with your hand is not automatically the same thing. So if one bedroom is consistently too cold or another is always too warm, don't immediately start closing vents everywhere. That temperature imbalance may be telling you something useful. Maybe the ductwork needs balancing. Maybe there's an insulation issue. Maybe a room gets brutal afternoon sun. Maybe there's an airflow problem. Maybe the return air setup isn't ideal. The temperature difference is information. Don't erase the evidence before you understand the cause. And here's where this video changes direction. Because the first two mistakes happen inside the house. Mistake number 3 happens outside, right beside the equipment. And people often make this one because they're genuinely trying to help the air conditioner. Mistake number 3. Smothering the outdoor unit. Walk outside and look at your condenser. That big metal box is sitting there in the heat. The sun is beating down on it. And your first thought might be, why don't I give this thing some shade? So you plant shrubs around it. Maybe you put up a decorative fence because you don't want to look at it from the patio. Maybe somebody builds a little structure over it. Maybe the bushes that were 3 feet tall when you moved in are now 6 feet tall and touching the cabinet. Now the outdoor unit looks protected. But what does that equipment need constantly while it's operating? Air. A lot of air. The outdoor portion of an air conditioning system is rejecting heat from your home. It needs to pull outdoor air through the coil and move that heat away. So, while shade might sound like the biggest concern, unrestricted airflow around the equipment is usually far more important than making the cabinet look cool and comfortable. You don't want the unit buried in shrubs. You don't want grass clippings plastered against the coil. You don't want leaves packed around the base. And you don't want a decorative enclosure built so tightly that the machine has trouble moving air. Here's the easy check. Stand several feet away and actually look at the unit. Can air move around it? Are branches leaning against it? Has a vine started growing through the grill? Is something sitting directly above it? Is the coil packed with visible debris? And before trimming or changing anything around the unit, check the manufacturer's clearance requirements for your equipment, because those requirements can vary. Now here's the interesting part. If your goal is reducing summer cooling demand, there may be far better places to think about shade. A west-facing window getting blasted with afternoon sun, an unshaded section of the house, attic heat, air leaks, insulation problems. Those things influence how much heat enters the building in the first place. So instead of building a tiny house around your condenser, focus on keeping the unit clear and reducing unnecessary heat gain where it matters. And that brings us to the mistake where homeowners can start paying real money over and over again. Mistake number 4, treating refrigerant like gasoline. Your AC isn't cooling correctly. A technician arrives, he connects his equipment. A few minutes later he says, "Your refrigerant is low." Most homeowners hear that and picture the fuel gauge in a car. Okay, it's low. Add some. Problem solved. But there's one question you should immediately ask. Why is it low? Air conditioning refrigerant circulates through a closed system. It isn't supposed to be consumed every summer like gasoline. Your air conditioner doesn't burn a little refrigerant every time it cools the house. So if the system truly has less refrigerant than it should, there is a reason. A leak is one possibility. An earlier improper charge is another possibility. There may be installation or service history that needs to be understood. The point is that it's low is a finding. It isn't automatically the full diagnosis. Think about a car tire that keeps losing pressure. You can stop at the gas station every Monday and add air. Technically, you solved the immediate problem. The tire has pressure again. But if you're doing that every week, the question isn't, how much air should I add? The question is, why does this tire keep losing air? That's the mindset you want with refrigerant. If someone tells you the system is low, ask, do you know why? Have you found evidence of a leak? What testing do you recommend? If you repair the problem, how will you verify the correct refrigerant charge? Those are reasonable homeowner questions. You don't need to argue with the technician. You don't need to pretend you're an HVAC expert. And you absolutely don't need to start experimenting with refrigerant yourself. Refrigerant work requires specialized equipment, proper procedures, and, depending on jurisdiction and refrigerant type, regulatory requirements. This is professional work. Your job isn't to handle the refrigerant. Your job is to understand what you're paying to fix. Because repeatedly paying for the same symptom without understanding the cause can become very expensive. And now we come to the biggest mistake. This is the one that doesn't happen when your air conditioner is running. It happens when you're shopping for the next one. Mistake number 5. Buying a bigger AC just to be safe. Your old system finally dies. It's July. The house is hot. Everyone is irritated. The contractor is sitting at the kitchen table going through replacement options. And then you see two choices. One system is the size being recommended. Another is larger. And the larger one isn't dramatically more expensive. So your brain immediately says, why not go bigger? More capacity has to mean better cooling, right? And even if you don't need all that power today, maybe you'll be glad you have it during the next heat wave. That logic makes sense until you understand what an air conditioner is actually trying to accomplish. Your job isn't simply to make the thermostat number fall as fast as possible. You want the house to stay comfortable. That involves temperature, humidity, air movement, runtime, duct design, insulation, windows, sun exposure, climate, and the actual cooling load of the building. A system that's oversized for the house can satisfy the thermostat quickly and shut off. Then the temperature rises, it comes back on, then it shuts off again. That operating pattern can create comfort problems, and in humid climates, short run times may also reduce the system's opportunity to remove moisture effectively. That's how you can end up with a strange situation where the thermostat number looks good, but the house still doesn't feel as comfortable as you expected. Bigger equipment can also mean bigger upfront cost. And if the duct system wasn't designed for that capacity, you may create an entirely new set of airflow questions. So when you're buying a replacement system, the question should not be, what's the biggest unit I can afford? The question should be, how did you determine what size this house actually needs? That's where a proper load calculation becomes important. In residential HVAC, you may hear contractors refer to Manual J. The basic purpose is to estimate the heating and cooling requirements of the specific house rather than choosing equipment from square footage alone. A meaningful calculation considers characteristics such as the building envelope, insulation, windows, orientation, climate, and other factors that affect heat gain and loss. That's much better than someone walking around the outside of your house for 2 minutes and saying, yeah, you've got about 2,000 square feet, put this one in. And here's another thing. When your AC fails during the hottest week of the year, you're in the worst possible emotional position to make a major purchase. You're hot. You're tired. Maybe you've got children in the house. Maybe you've got an elderly parent. Maybe you're worried about pets. You want the problem gone today. That urgency is understandable, but a major equipment purchase still deserves questions. Ask for the proposed equipment model. Ask why that capacity was selected. Ask whether a load calculation was performed. Ask whether the existing duct system is appropriate. Ask what warranties are included. And when time and circumstances allow, compare more than one proposal. A second opinion isn't an insult. You're making a major decision about equipment that could be in your home for many years. You deserve to understand what you're buying. Here's the pattern behind all 5. Now look back at every mistake. None of them sounds ridiculous. That's why homeowners keep making them. Set it lower because you want faster cooling. Sounds reasonable. Close unused vents because you don't want to waste cold air. Sounds reasonable. Shade the outdoor unit because the sun is hot. Sounds reasonable. Add refrigerant because the system is low. Sounds reasonable. Buy the bigger air conditioner because you don't want to be underpowered. Sounds reasonable. And that's exactly the lesson. Some of the most expensive HVAC mistakes don't begin with reckless behavior. They begin with intuitive behavior. You're trying to help. You're trying to save money. You're trying to make the system work better. But an HVAC system doesn't care what feels intuitive. It responds to airflow, temperature, pressure, heat transfer, equipment sizing, controls, and the physical conditions it was designed around. So here's the entire video in about 30 seconds. If you walk into a hothouse, set the thermostat to the temperature you actually want. Don't drop it to 60 because you're trying to intimidate the machine. If you have unused rooms, don't close half the supply registers and assume you've created free zoning. If the outdoor unit is buried in shrubs or surrounded by a decorative enclosure, give it the airflow and clearance its manufacturer requires. If someone says your refrigerant is low, ask why it's low and what the actual repair plan is. And if you're replacing the system, don't buy more capacity simply because bigger sounds safer. Ask how they calculated what your house actually needs. Those 5 habits cost nothing to understand. But understanding them might help you avoid the kind of problems that keep HVAC trucks busy all summer. And before you go, I want to know something. Look at your thermostat right now. What temperature do you normally keep your house during the hottest part of summer? Put the number in the comments and tell me approximately how old your AC system is. I'm curious to see how different the answers are between people living in dry climates, humid climates, older houses, and newer homes. And if you learned something today that changed the way you think about your air conditioner, subscribe, because in the next video, we're getting into another mistake almost everybody sees at the hardware store. Why buying the most restrictive, highest rated air filter you can find isn't automatically the best choice for every HVAC system.